Welcome to The Glitter Effect, a podcast dedicated to shining a light on the movers, shakers, change makers, and all-round living legends of our communities who are making a real difference. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies the Glitter Effect spirit in the most extraordinary way. I'm thrilled to be joined by Louise O'Neill, who is the CEO of Palliative Care Queensland and the driving force behind one of the most beautiful programs, Wish Queensland. Louise has spent her career caring for others, first as a nurse, then through senior roles across health, aged care and disability reform, and now through her leadership in the palliative care sector. She brings heart, humanity and deep purpose to everything she touches, and I guarantee that this conversation will touch your heart. Louise O'Neill, thank you very much for being on The Glitter Effect and welcome.
Thank you, Kate. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you for taking your time. I know you're busy on the road, as we were talking offline then, so we'll get cracking straight away. As I mentioned in the intro, Lou, you began your career as a registered nurse, is that correct?
Yes, I did. I hospital trained, so it's some time ago now. It just gives you a bit of my age background there.
Oh, wisdom, we like to call that. And then you've held lots of roles spanning across the health, disability and aged care sector. What originally drew you into this career that's dedicated to care, compassion and community impact? Because this isn't something for everyone.
Yeah, look, I think I grew up in a family of nurses.
Yep.
My mum and my sisters were all nurses. I was never going to be a nurse, not in a million years. And I grew up in an era when families had a lot of influence on your career. So I actually was going to do veterinary science, but I was told under no uncertain terms, even though I got into it, that I couldn't do it because I was a girl. And so I was asked to do law instead, and I went and did half a law degree. And halfway through, I just went, this is not for me.
Yep.
I'm going to go and do nursing because I get paid for that. It was in the hospital train system, and we used to get $130 a fortnight, I think, to start doing shift work. And so if I went and did that, and I just liked caring for animals and people. It was just in my nature, I think. So
yeah. And so you're, as we said in the introduction, you're the CEO of Palliative Care Queensland. How long have you been in that role for, Lou?
I've been in there, it'll be 3 weeks next week.
Oh, my goodness. So you're very new. I didn't realise it was that new. Oh, well, there you go.
Quite new.
That's amazing. So for people who don't know, can you explain what Palliative Care Queensland is and what its purpose and what drew you to there as well? Because that's slightly different to nursing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit. Well, it's part of nursing.
Part of nursing.
Part of all health and all community, really. So Palliative Care Queensland is the peak charity organisation. It's a peak advocacy organisation. We support health professionals, doctors, nurses, social workers to, we advocate on their behalf to government and other places for better palliative care, for better supports for them to deliver palliative care.
Mm-hmm.
We also support a lot of the hospices, or all of the hospices across the state of Queensland, and people in the community who have a palliative diagnosis, or their families who are supporting them, or may have supported someone who has died. And we do a lot of education as well around, we're a death-denying society. No one wants to talk about death. So one thing for certain, if you're born, you will die, and no one wants to talk about it. But we spend an endless amount of time organising 21st birthdays and engagements and weddings and everything else, but we don't think about what that pinnacle of our life should look like, and we don't organise anything about that. And the reason I got here, I guess, is that my eldest sister, I was the youngest of 7, she died when she was 4, and I never met her. Mm-hmm. But my mother was a nurse, and I don't remember my sister ever not being around, because every morning I'd get out of bed, run down the hall and go look at her photo on the wall in the dining room and say, "Hi, Trish," and then I'd go have breakfast. So for me, death was just part of life, and I've never known any different.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful story. That's nice. So just before we go on to the next bit, there's a lot of, as you said, there's a lot of common misconceptions about palliative care and end-of-life care. If you could shift even at least one misconception about those, what would it be?
Palliative care is not in place to kill people. It is here to support people have a better life and a longer life right until the very end, and afterwards to support their families. The big misconception is that palliative care is this terrible service that is actually going to end your life sooner, and it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And it works in conjunction with other medical services, oncology or hematology or cardiology. We work with all those services to make sure that people are getting to make the right choices as they approach the end of life. Sometimes we over-medicalise everything, and we particularly over-medicalise death and dying.
Yep.
And there's times where we need to say, is this treatment still right for this person? Or is it time to actually think about what matters most to them and how do we help them to have the best life right to the end? And sometimes that means stopping treatment or changing treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because, like you say, it's something that people are scared to talk about, but inevitably it happens to all of us. So it gives everybody a choice, I think, as well, to understand. Yeah, which is what we all want. We all crave that throughout life, but it gets to that point and we don't seem to think that we have a choice. So I love what you're doing. Now, just to be clear, you're based in Queensland, but are there similar organisations around the rest of Australia and the world that do things that you do?
Yeah, so in Australia is probably world leading in palliative care in many ways, although we say we need much more. And this is this whole thing about not doing it well. But in terms of Western countries, we're up there with doing good palliative care across the country. We have Palliative Care Australia, which is a national peak organisation, and then we are members of them. So each state and territory has a member-based organisation where clinicians and people in the community are our members.
Yep.
And we are members of the national peak organisation. So we do work really hard to advocate for better palliative care in aged care, for instance, at that national level, and disability services. 70% of people want to die at home or in their home-like environment, or that place that is their home at that time of their life, which may be a residential aged care service. 70% of people actually die in hospitals. And so there's something wrong with that equation, like roughly, and each state and territory is a bit different, but there's something wrong with the equation and something wrong with the way that we view people's choice and understand what's of most benefit to our community. And I think if we could change the dial on supporting people to have better community services and supports in place so that they could die at home or in a hospice, have more hospices, then we would have less people, long-term in hospital that are blocking beds for acute people.
Yeah.
And less people ramping in ambulances. So, we're doing things a bit wrong here.
Yeah. And that's your role. Part of your role is that advocacy and to try and change that, I suppose, again, that misconception in some ways. Yeah. Wonderful. I mean, hard yards for you guys to do that, but, kudos and hats off to all of you doing that. And now one of your signature programs is Ambulance Wish Queensland. And my research said that was the first of its kind in Australia. Is that right?
That's
when it
absolutely
landed.
Correct. Yeah.
And I personally think this is one of the most beautiful things I have come across, which is why I reached out to you guys. Can you share what Ambulance Wish Queensland is and how this global movement found its home in Queensland?
Well, sure. So, in 2018, there was, there were two paramedics in Hervey Bay who had a woman in their ambulance who wanted to see the sea one last time. And so they took her for a drive up into a headland in Hervey Bay so she could watch the ocean, and they sat there with her before they had to take her off to hospital. And that went viral, I think, on Channel 7, one of the commercial television stations at the time. And from that, a woman named Anne-Marie Dykstra, who lives down the Gold Coast, contacted my predecessor and said, that there's a program in the Netherlands called Stichting Ambulance Vens, and it was started by a paramedic. The the Dutch government supports it wholeheartedly now. They have a very big fleet of ambulances in the Netherlands that is Ambulance Wish Netherlands, basically. That's what it translates to.
Yep.
And so from there, we, Palliative Care Queensland, talked to government in Queensland at the of the day, and there was some support for an ambulance to be provided.
Yep.
And that ambulance took Betty for the first wish in Queensland. Betty was in her 90s and she just wanted a passion fruit ice cream in the Botanic Gardens in Brisbane, and that's what she had. She did also get Stephen Miles, the then health minister. I don't know that she encountered that she would have him on the wish, but he was there too. But they supported, the government of the day supported it, and we're still being supported by government here in part to run the program.
Mm-hmm.
We partner with Queensland Ambulance Service, and so when I started 3 years ago, we had just launched our second ambulance. So the first one was in 2019, the second in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've been able to get another 2 ambulances with Queensland Ambulance Service. So we have one in Brisbane that services Gold Coast, New South Wales border out to Brisbane and beyond, 150 to 200 kilometres from the centre of Brisbane. We have one in Toowoomba, one in Noosa, or Sunshine Coast Hub, between Noosa and Caloundra, and one up here in Townsville, in far north Queensland, where I am up this way today.
Lovely. And so that's grown since 2019, we're now 2026, so that's grown in that period of time. What makes this program so powerful for individuals and their families?
So when you have a life-limiting illness and you know that the end of your life is coming sooner than you first expected, sometimes that creeps up on people slowly and sometimes it creeps up very quickly. But what we mostly hear is that people will get to a point in their time, and I experienced this a lot as when I was nursing over the years that I nursed for 20-odd years, that people have this great desire to do something. Often it's not huge or even entirely glamorous. It might be as simple as going home and having a beer on the back veranda and patting the dog.
Yep.
But it's profoundly personal, and it is very much at the heart of humanity that you want to fulfill these things that matter most to you at that time in your life. And so that's, I guess, our wishes range from going home, patting the family dog, to going to a big football match and seeing the Broncos play or the Cowboys up here, and everything in between, going to see Australia Zoo, and giraffes are a thing. So many people love the giraffes at this time of their life. Yeah, and I never thought about that. And meerkats. And sometimes it's just purely to go and stand in some water and watch your children play.
Yep. Yeah.
For one of my favourite wishes, they're all my favourites, but one that I always often talk about is this whole sense of wishes give the person at the centre of it the ability to fulfil a moment in time that's going to last in their memory forever and in the memories of those that love them most. But it also brings a community of people together. It is about building compassion in our community and showcasing what good palliative care is, because palliative care is that whole of life experience from journeying through an illness to the end of life. And ambulance wish encompasses all of that. And I think if I talk about Dennis's wish, he was a man who was stuck in a hospital in Caboolture in Queensland for some time and couldn't get home. He just wanted to go home to family property and have one last bonfire with his mates. And anyway, we were contacted and were able to pull this off, and there were 100-odd people there at the property, and bonfires everywhere and cars everywhere.
Yeah.
And adults, like older men with the Cooperers, really, really worn out of Cooperers, and grandbabies, and everyone in between. And there were lots of tears shed and hugging and kisses. And we got this beautiful video that we often show of this wish that his family gifted us. And to me, it epitomises that whole thing about what Dennis wanted and what was really right for him on that day and at that time, but also what his wife and his children and grandchildren got to have this memorialised, day with him where he was like a living wake, I guess. And his mates, who were these grown men, they all had beers and whiskies and all sorts of things, and having hugs and kisses and crying, and just it was great. It's amazing, beautiful.
That's so nice, because you often hear, people saying that when a family member or a friend has passed, if they could have one more moment, what they would say, and this kind of not forces anyone, but it gives them the opportunity to say what they need to say in a safe space. It's just, Lou, it's just beautiful. And I really am so in awe of everybody who is involved in this program, because there would be days where it's hard. It's emotional, whilst you don't know them personally. You're solely run by volunteers, correct? Pretty much?
No, we've got 10 staff for everything we do. So that includes our community education, peer advocacy and peak work.
Yeah.
We do National Palliative Care Week and a lot of big events. We hold Good Life, Good Death expos across the state, where we get together people that work in the industry of supporting people through life and death.
Yeah.
And Ambulance Wish. So we do a lot with a little. We do have 160 and growing volunteers who support mostly Ambulance Wish, but also our education and our other events, and just us to do our administration, like looking after volunteers volunteer to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we have a lot of young people, and this is the thing that's often surprised me in this role.
Yeah.
Is that, like, for me, I understand why I've always felt comfortable in this space from when I was very young, but I've been quite surprised at seeing how many young people have gravitated to working with us and volunteering with us. And but one thing that worries me is how I support them to be okay with what we do every day, because you're right. Really, it's really two people that run our Ambulance Wish program full time, to do all the logistics, getting the wish together. We also do the beautiful wish books. Each wish gets a wish book. So we pay for a photographer to come out, and they, on every wish, and they take photos, and then the team puts that together into a book, and that gets printed by a printing company that does that for a discount for us, as do the photographers. Sometimes there's videos done as well. We have community organisations that knit or crochet or quilt blankets for each wish recipient. It brings all that community together across the state.
Yeah.
And our Queensland Ambulance Service provides the bears that go to each person. But for the young people that work in the program, it is confronting every day, and a lot of our wish recipients are young. We've had some very young children and young adults. And then we have some very old, much older people who are in their 80s and 90s, of course. So yeah, we do have initiated having a psychologist who works in the space of paediatric palliative care and other palliative care to have a chat to the team every month. It often ends up being more of a talk about how do we do our work better as a team. Yeah, but it's there for people to access, as is EAP and all those other things. But it's always, how do we look at the spiritual side of things, the emotional, psychological side of our own selves, to make sure we can go and support others.
Yeah, because it would be very hard. I mean, you'd often take the emotion home with you, but you need to make sure that everybody is okay with that and it sits well with them. So that's great to hear that you've got that support for them. So it can it's like supporting people at the very end of their life. It can teach us a lot about how we live. How has this work taught you about, or what has this work taught you about your purpose, priorities, and humanity as a whole?
So, I guess I've been quite surprised sometimes. I've been pleasantly surprised and then sometimes a bit shocked, really.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's the people who you least expect will actually engage with the program or with us and assist us, because we are a charity and we get some money from government, but we've moved from being mostly funded by government to being, I think we're now about 53% government
Mm,
funding and 47% donations and
okay.
sponsorships, and that's
That's
growing all the
good.
time in an environment where it's hard to get
Yeah, that's
traction.
terrific.
Um, I guess there's been some people who I've talked to who I thought would be really keen to support us, and as they were aging themselves, some of them went, "Oh no, I don't want to talk about palliative care or ambulance wish because I'm too close to that myself now."
Ah, yeah.
And it's like, well, but that's why you do need us, because we can help you to have the best life to the end, and you can help people's generosity can help others to have the best life to the end
Mm,
at all age groups, because dying doesn't discriminate. You can be young, you can be old, you can be anything in between,
that's
and
right.
if we're going to just ignore it and not plan for it and not talk about it, then we'll probably end up in a really terrible spot, I think.
Mm, mm.
So anyway, yeah, I've been most heartened by the fact of when we have a wish, the number of organisations that will support that wish, whether it's through providing food for the family or, the surf lifesaving clubs putting out their wheelchair and their carpet down to the beach and
Yeah,
providing
nice.
some support for that. And, clubs that don't have a wheelchair access on a night because their lift's broken down, coming in and getting people to help carry someone up in a wheelchair to the top of the club for their 30th birthday party.
Yeah, great.
And, people could say no, but they don't. They generally don't. And that's really heartening, because I think sometimes society, we forget, we've lost our way in understanding how to actually support each other as neighbours and community, and we're very keen
Yeah.
to jump on the Facebook and be keyboard warriors and criticise others instead of actually stopping and going, oh, I really want to help the
Mm,
person, my neighbour or my friend or the person I don't know down the road, but I saw that they're not well. So that's where I think this program really does change people's minds about how they should be a good community member, a good neighbour, a
mm.
good family member. I don't know. It just changes people's concept of community and self, I think.
That's so
Mm.
nice. That's lovely. And like you say, generally, people, when they're asked, will help. But, being just sort of expecting people to help, it's always a funny one, isn't it? And people have got to find their purpose. And, clearly it's like you say, it's something that happens to everyone. So everyone can put themselves in the shoes
Mm.
of the people that they're helping. So,
Mm.
I think it makes it so unique. How many wishes do you know how many wishes that you've granted since you started?
When I
Roughly?
started, we'd done about 52 when I started. We're now at about 270.
Wow.
So we've done about 220 in 3 years. Um,
Gosh, that's a lot.
um, it is a lot. Um, and look, I guess the other thing for me, it's that profound impact that the wishes have on the family.
Mm.
Because you can see that person. In fact, this is the really interesting thing that I often see is, and we hear this a lot, is that some people will say, I, my loved one hasn't been very happy for the last year or so. Their life has not been of great quality.
Mm.
We haven't seen them smile for a long time. And then they'll get a wish and we'll take them out. It might be going to see their favourite opera or going home or, just there's some really amazing, they're all amazing wishes. Every wish is beautiful and individual and amazing. But 9 times out of 10, we get reports back from the family and from the clinical staff and the volunteers, but particularly the clinical staff back in the hospital or hospice or aged care home, that will tell us that, um, you know, they just changed so much after that wish. And leading up to the wish, they were so excited that they seemed to improve and lift. And then they would go
Mm.
on their wish and then they would come back and their mood was, often people get, I guess, what is a bit of like existential crisis. What is the meaning of life? What's happening to me? Why me? Why am I
Yeah.
dying? I don't want to die yet.
Yeah.
What we hear with wishes is that people get a lot of peace after that.
Yeah.
And we have heard of people that have held on for 2 or 3 weeks because they wanted to do a particular thing. And once they knew that they were getting the wish, they lifted, went and did the wedding, or, we take people to weddings or birthday parties or whatever. And then they might die within 24 hours or 48 hours afterwards, but they die really, what we hear is peacefully and at peace, I guess.
Yeah.
And that is like, and the families get this really beautiful memory to hang on to. The last moments together weren't this sad, horrible thing happening in a hospital or a strange place. The last things that they really remember was that beautiful event they all did together.
And that's something really lovely to, like you say, to hold on to, isn't it, for that grieving process. And that's something tangible for people to take with them, which is lovely. So, and you mentioned that you're with the funding, that you obviously do some fundraising. Do you have particular fundraising events throughout the year, or is it just you ask for donations as readily as possible, or how does that go?
Well, all and everything really. But we do have a gala dinner or a gala event every year. So this year we did it at Noosa River on the boathouse.
Lovely.
And then this coming year it will be in Brisbane. So the Brisbane ones are a bigger event still. And then next year I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing Toowoomba, no, the year after, 2027.
Yeah.
So there are big events of fundraising, but then we do lots of mini events in communities where we'll go out and do a trivia night. Like at Halloween, we partnered with the local hospice in Toowoomba and did a Halloween trivia night at one of the pubs. There were 80 people that went.
Oh, wow.
And all the proceeds went to between Ambulance Wish and the hospice. So
that's nice.
And it's really nice that we get to partner with some of our clinical partners as well, who are also charities. And it really promotes what we do across the community, and it promotes, really importantly, that clinical side, or that care side of hospice and palliative care.
Yeah, and that's the important thing. I think it is that, isn't it? Just making sure more and more people know it's not clinical. It's something that it's nice. If I can't think of another word, but it is nice. So what's the vision for the next chapter of Ambulance Wish Queensland? What plans have you got in place that you can share with us?
Well, plans are we need to get an ambulance up in Cairns and another one in Rockhampton. So that's 2 physical ambulances we need to get going. I've got to see if I can procure those. So Queensland Ambulance gives us decommissioned ambulances, and then they house them. And a lot of them the paramedics volunteer. Most of our volunteers are paramedics on the Ambulance Wish side. So that's one. And then the other thing is that we really need to get more engaged in the aged care space around palliative care and into dementia space. Because I don't think anyone does palliative care well for older people. Individual organisations or groups might, and everyone means well, of course, but we're just not good enough at that yet. So my aim in the next 12 months is to get more engaged in the aged care space. Now that there's a palliative care package that started in November, and it at least talks about it, but how do we make sure that people are actually getting palliative care? And how do we make sure that people are getting to do what matters most for themselves before they die? What's your legacy is what I often say to people. And we talk a lot about legacy. And I actually said to our board, we're about to launch our new strategic plan for the next 5 years. And we've decided that there will be a key focus area that is a real stretch one about developing hospice in Queensland more. Because we've got 10 hospices across the state, but it's just not enough with the number of people who are aging and complex diseases that we have, chronic disease. So, there's a lot to do.
I was going to say, you're going to be a busy lady. Watch this space.
I try.
I know it's good, and it's good to know, there's always room for growth, and the more people hear, listen to this and hear what the amazing things you're doing, that's when it becomes possible. So, everything, it all comes together in the end. All those small conversations become something big in the end. Now, a little bit more lighthearted. The podcast is called The Glitter Effect because I firmly believe everyone has a pot of glitter that they spread with purpose and heart in their communities. But we all agree that we don't all get to this point in our lives without people who have inspired us or motivated us to be who we are today. So who have been your glitter kings and queens throughout your life that have sort of inspired you to be the person that you are today?
So I think my mum, who's 96,
Yeah.
and, I think the greatest thing she ever did was to never hide the fact that she had this beautiful daughter who died at 4 years of age.
Mm.
And so she made death a normal part of life that can happen at any age. And for me, I never realized that everyone didn't know a child that died until actually recently. It suddenly struck me that it's kind of not that common.
Yeah.
But for me, it gave me a really healthy ability to accept that that's what the end looks like. Doesn't mean I'm not scared about dying or I don't want to go there. But it just, that it's there, it's just obvious. And why should we not talk about that and prepare ourselves? The others was an older Irish nurse unit manager at Prince of Wales Hospital who used to run the night shift, and she was just the most amazing person. And she had the greatest humanity of anyone I know. And I remember I was a very young new RN, moved down from Brisbane to Sydney. And then I was pregnant and we didn't have much money. And she would meet me she'd say, meet me at the coffee shop after night shift. And she'd take me shopping and buy me a pram and she used to do these things. And she was just this person that taught me that giving is just so important. Just little bits make such a difference to a person's life. So I've always sort of, tried to emulate her and say, well, I'll always pay back what I got from somebody else, because I was in a pretty tough part of my life at the time. And yeah, so I had 3 little girls who are Aboriginal and my family did not like that. So I was pretty much alone. And this person from Ireland was there for me all the time. And she was an amazing person. And then I think for me, the other glitter people in my life have been all the people I've ever cared for. It's that strength of being able to, you learn so much from people. But most recently, my very dear old friend, Jeffrey, who died 2 years ago, and I was able to give him, he was an Aboriginal man who I was his next of kin for many years, and he was really terrified about dying. And we talked a lot about this existential crisis and of why it was so terrifying. And I was able to get a niece of mine to help me work through his spiritual being, because he knew he was Aboriginal but not where from. So the people I knew, my family, they adopted him and my extended family, and basically walked him through that spiritual part of death and dying. And he went so peacefully, and we gave him a natural burial, a natural cremation, where he was painted in ochre, wrapped in paper bark, which we all did together as with his family, and then covered in native flowers from everyone's gardens.
Beautiful.
And it was stunning, and I've got beautiful photos of it. And then we all sat around and drank tea and with him, all dressed up in his flowers, and drank tea and laughed and shared photos. And to me, that's a glitter moment. It was like, and people there all said, I didn't know I can do death well, and this is amazing. We've never done this before. And it was like, yeah. So,
wow. Lou, that's the 3 very different people, but who have obviously made an incredible impact on you. And to go back to your middle one that you were talking about, your on the nurse that you were working with, you absolutely more than emulate what you said you want to be a bit like her. I can guarantee you're very, very much like her if she's anything like what you've just described her. You're a special person, and you should always be celebrated. So celebrate yourself every now and then too. Now, last question. It's a very easy one for you. How can our listeners find out more about the incredible things you do at Ambulance Wish Queensland and Palliative Care Queensland?
All they have to do is put in Ambulance Wish Queensland into the internet or Palliative Care Queensland into the internet and hit search, and you'll find us. Really proudly, we put a new website together for our palliative care side with the help of Queensland Health over the last 2 years. We did a beautiful video on there called The Cassette, which everyone should go. It's got the Pixies who've just been touring.
Oh, yeah, they have.
Yeah. It's got Pixies music as the background. So it's a spoiler, I won't think, but you should go and watch The Cassette. It won a lot of awards across the world,
Amazing.
including in New York, and for ad of the day and all sorts of things. So it's making death less scary. It's what its aim is. And yeah, I commend it. It's only a minute.
Fantastic. Everyone's got a minute. So there you go. Listeners, get yourself on there. Lou, thank you so much for sharing not just the story of Palliative Care Queensland and Ambulance Wish Queensland, but the humanity behind it, the love, the dignity, the simple joys and the moments that truly matter at the end of life. Today's conversation has reminded us that compassion is powerful, that community care is sacred, and that even in the most difficult times, there is still room for beauty. The work you and your team do gives people something priceless, a final memory, a last connection, a chance to say goodbye in a way that feels gentle and true. Lou, thank you for the incredible work you do and for leading the light you bring to people's final moments. You truly are glitter royalty, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have had you on the podcast today. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the very best. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining me, Kate Ganneil, on The Glitter Effect. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep showing up, making an impact, and sprinkling that glitter wherever you go. Bye for now.